Time now for new polling data. This week, we're in Arkansas's 4th Congressional District, which covers parts of South and Western Arkansas. The 4th is a hotbed of political activity this spring with a number of high-profile Senate and House primaries. But the big fights are for Congress. In the 4th District, we asked 417 Democratic primary voters who they would or have voted for. The three candidates on the Democratic side, Q. Byram Hurst, Gene Jeffress, D.C. Morrison. Hurst at 23%, Jeffress 22%, and D.C. Morrison at 11%. A whopping 44% still don't know who they're going to vote for, even though early voting has started, and there's only about a week to go until Election Day. And that race is very likely headed to a June runoff in my estimation. We also asked Republican voters for their take on the congressional race. You'll remember Tom Cotton and Beth Ann Rankin were tied at 38.5% just a little less than 3 weeks ago. Well, those numbers are different. There are three Republican candidates for the 4th District seat: Tom Cotton, John Cowart, Beth Ann Rankin. Right now, Cotton 51%, John Cowart 6%, and Beth Ann Rankin 33% of the vote with 10% undecided. And that race is still very fluid in my estimation because those numbers could change with the last week of strategy from either campaign. We also asked both Democrats and Republicans what they thought of the most controversial subject of the week, gay marriage, which, as you recall, President Obama advocated his support for this week. Only 26% of 4th District Democrats supported civil marriage for gay couples, while 69% said they opposed it. Roughly 5% said they had no opinion. Among GOP voters, opinions were even more decisive. Just 6% of Republican primary voters said they favored same-sex marriages, while 92% said they were opposed to it. Only 2% were undecided. I caught up late in the week with John Brummett, political columnist for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, for his take on the politics of gay marriage and these latest congressional numbers. All right, John, the president reversed a previous position, said he now supports gay marriage. But what is the political calculation in this? Is it to get Mitt Romney and the GOP off an economic message and into some social issues, or do you think there's another motive?
I think the way that the president had hemmed and hawed on that had just got to the point that it was untenable. He had to go ahead and say what he believed. You know, he kept saying that he was evolving. Well, evolving means you're getting to a certain position. He wasn't, everybody knew where he was, and he looked like he was sort of Romney-esque in trying to have it both ways. The calculation is, I think it won't hurt him that much, and it does possibly lead to more of a social issue discussion than an economic discussion. So I think there's some calculus to it, but I think it's just something he felt like he had to do. It was time, and we're probably going to have to be addressed in the platform at the convention, so you might as well go ahead and say it.
And what's the practical reality of the president making this statement? Is it symbolic, or do you think it leads to some sort of action?
I think he still believes the states ought to be able to do what they want to do, and most states at this point will ban it. It's a generational change, and he's in front of it. He's on the right side of history. No real immediate effect, I don't think.
Well, we polled 4th District Republicans and Democrats, as you know, on this subject. There's clearly very little interest in changing the state's constitution on this matter. As predictable as the opposition to gay marriage may have been, could you have predicted this level of opposition for both parties?
Your poll showing that Republican voters in South Arkansas oppose gay marriage 6-92. I don't know that I've ever seen a figure like that. And everybody knew it would be overwhelmingly opposed, but 6-92, that's unheard of. You must have had some gay people saying they opposed themselves to get a figure of 6-92. And then the Democrats, the president's own party, when you get south of Little Rock, 26%, I believe your poll shows, favor, 69% against. I guess that number is a little more predictable, but it's still a rout. It's overwhelming. People wonder why I would write a column worrying that this crank from Tennessee is going to get a lot of Democratic primary votes for president. Well, look here. Among the president's own party, south of Little Rock, 70% in his own party, 69, are opposed to something he announced famously and to great fanfare just 2 or 3 days before. I got to think if those folks don't go vote in the Republican congressional primary, as many of them will, they're going to go to the ballot and vote against President Obama. I see a West Virginia type vote, anti-Obama vote, possibly occurring in Arkansas that is exacerbated by this issue. The bottom line, Arkansas is a conservative state, famously behind the curve of history, wrong side of history on race, famously, and we're way behind. The gay rights movement is strong. Gallup shows nationwide that most Americans now favor gay marriage, but look in South Arkansas, regardless of party, don't like it. So we are strongly, deeply disconnected from the curve of history and the rest of the country on this issue.
All right, John, let's flip and talk about some other numbers, beginning with the most interesting of the big races, at least in the congressional matchups. That's the GOP primary in the 4th. Tom Cotton at 51%, Beth Ann Rankin 33%. What's this say about Arkansas politics and the Arkansas GOP that this is the most interesting campaign of the season? And what do you think of those numbers?
Nothing stands as a testament more to the seminal change in Arkansas politics than that. We're getting ready to have a primary May 22, and the most interesting race on the ballot, which is to say the least boring race on the ballot, is the one for the Republican congressional nomination in once solidly conservative Democratic, Blue Dog Democratic South Arkansas. More money's been spent, more television ads have appeared in that race. Most people will tell you that whoever wins this Republican primary is the favorite, the likely favorite, to be the next congressman from South Arkansas. The Democrats are in horrible disarray. They've got no coordinated campaign, no federal money, no presidential effort here, no governor's race, no U.S. Senate race, nothing statewide, and nobody in South Arkansas, no serious candidate was willing, I think, to take this on. So the Republican primary in South Arkansas is where the only interesting game is. Cotton has this wonderful resume. He's a Harvard lawyer who gave up his law practice to serve his country militarily in the Mideast after 9/11. Has now come home, has all this national neocon money, is a rising star among the neocon movement from Washington. Has had more TV, has had pretty good TV, and has this a lead that shows that he could well win this without a runoff. Even though there's other candidates in the race that could force a runoff. And Beth Ann Rankin ran 2 years ago as a former Miss Arkansas, has a certain appeal, has a base, but most people think Cotton is not just the winner of the Republican primary, but the next congressman from down there.
Yeah, probably headed for a runoff on the Democratic side. Q. Byram Hurst, 23, Gene Jeffress, 22, your dark horse candidate, D.C. Morrison at 11%. Really not much separation in those candidates. How badly damaged do you think the Democratic candidate's going to be in the fall? Will this race even be remotely competitive?
I don't think it's going to be very competitive. Even your most partisan, true-believing Democrats, and there are some who want to sit down with me and explain to me how they're not as dead as I say they are in South Arkansas. We've not had that sit down, and I look forward to it. But as I read it, as I read this poll, as I read these results about the president's position on gay marriage, as I look down there and examine the relative strength of these candidates, I just think that in their private moments, even these Democrats will say, probably not. We've probably lost that one. Possibly all 4 of our congressional seats will be held by Republicans, 5 of the 6, counting the 2 Senate seats. These are bad times for Arkansas Democrats, just very bad times. If you had a president who would emphasize get out the vote and get some energy here in his campaign, maybe that would help. If Mike Beebe was running again at the head of the ticket for governor, but this is an off year, so maybe that would help. If we had a statewide Senate race with some energy, maybe that would help. There's nothing to shore up their otherwise dwindling prospects. Whoever gets the nomination down there in South Arkansas, Hurst or Jeffress or even Morrison, surely not, will be on his own, and it doesn't look good.